Okay, so this is the first slide. So before comic era, I was aware of comics as a medium since Captain Underpants and The Wrath of the Wicked Wedgie Woman. It was the actual comic part was my favorite part next to the flip-o-ramas. But I didn't actually understand how comics worked in the genre. I tried making a comic anyway, just on a whim. It was an object show comic based on my grade 6 friend's object show comic. So what is an object show? An object show is a show with anthropomorphic object characters as seen here. Usually, but not always, object shows are shows like Survivor, where they have two different teams and they do challenges to win a grand prize. So my first manga, because I started with mangas instead of like comics, was the 7th volume of Yu-Gi-Oh! It was the last one focused on just general games before it became obsessed with card games. I got it in a strange order where I got the 7th volume, then the 3rd volume, then volumes 1 through 3, 4 through 6, and then 7 through 9. 8 and 9 were like Duelist Island, like the anime card game. I thought it was pretty good. But my translation was kind of bad because they just like not really speak naturally. It was okay. My first comic for real this time was Sonic the Comic by Fleetway Publishing. It covers the main plots of Sonic games, starting with Sonic 2 and ending with Sonic Adventure because the company went bankrupt and couldn't make comics anymore. But it actually ended on like a story arc that feels like the end, which is a lot for Sonic side adaptations, because a lot of them just get canceled kind of like halfway through or in the middle of a story arc. So they got lucky. Its vibe is very different. I learned about it through the EXE Friday Night Funking mod. The second manga / third comic that I got was JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I started reading it after I watched a spoiler thing of parts 1 through 5, but now I'm on part 6, so that's good. At the end of each JoJo's volume, they have a little like interview with the author where it's just like the author talks about something random relating to how they made the comic, and it's pretty cool. It gives you an insight of the insides of characters. I also got a guide to manga creation by the author of JoJo's, which is pretty cool. The first webcomic that mattered was the Averse. Okay, so the Averse is an a little underground indie webcomic that releases on pixel art that's still ongoing. It started releasing in September, and I've started reading it in March. Every day, a page somewhat like this, where it's 4 panels, comes out, and each of these pages are called episodes. There's up to like 600 episodes. The last binge I read took me 2 or so days. ATV, the creator of Averse, has said that their comic was inspired by Inanimate Insanity, which itself was inspired by BFDI, which was the first object show. Okay, A Story of a Crayon was kind of like a bootleg version of Averse that was released on the same site by someone younger than ATV. I started as a fan, but then got involved as an assistant writer / assistant character designer. All of these characters I had designed for A Story of a Crayon. A Story of a Crayon got canceled in November due to outside things, and I stopped working on it during August. But it gave me tips for my own little object show comic that I want to do. It's called Kinetic Field. I thought of the name while I was in the bathroom, like yesterday. It's about a magnet and a compass, and they do like fighting. It's pretty cool, I think. And here are some honorable mentions of stuff I couldn't say for time restraints. Objectified is a cool object comic, just wasn't super relevant. Fractured Backwards is a Sonic fan fiction that I'm inspired by, but it isn't a comic, so I couldn't really mention it. Double Life is the same as Fractured Backwards. BFDI is the first object show, I mentioned that. And Sonic the Hedgehog Archie I read before Sonic the Hedgehog Fleetway, but Archie just sucks, so it's a dishonorable mention. And that's the end. Here you go.
Thank you, Tekia.